The Greek army gathered at Aulis, their ships crowding the harbor, ready to sail for Troy and reclaim Helen. The air was thick with anticipation and the clang of armor, as warriors from every corner of Greece assembled under the banners of their kings. The harbor, once quiet, now echoed with the sounds of preparation. Oars being tested, sails unfurled, and the shouts of commanders rallying their men for the greatest expedition the world had ever seen. But the winds refused to blow. The sea was a mirror, the sails hung limp, and frustration grew. Days passed in uneasy stillness, the promise of swift departure fading with each sunrise. The men watched the horizon, hoping for a breeze, but the gods remained silent. Soldiers grew restless, their dreams of glory fading into anger and doubt. The camp, once alive with excitement, became a place of impatience and whispered fears. Some questioned the omens, others blamed their leaders, and all felt the weight of uncertainty. The leaders, Agamemnon, Achilles, Odysseus and Nestor, met daily, but found no solution. Their councils stretched long into the night, voices raised in frustration as they debated the will of the gods and the fate of their mission. They had warriors, weapons, and supplies, but lacked the knowledge to reach Troy. All their preparations seemed useless without the favor of the winds, and their vast army was left idle, their purpose slipping away. Their first attempt had ended in disaster, landing them in Mysia, and embroiling them in a needless battle. The memory of that misstep haunted the leaders, a reminder that even the greatest force could falter without guidance. Now, trapped by calm seas and uncertainty, the greatest army in the world was powerless. The men who had come to conquer now found themselves conquered by the stillness of the sea. The silence of the gods weighed heavily on them. Each day the soldiers looked skyward, searching for a sign, a whisper of wind, or a message from Olympus. Without a guide, their fleet was useless, defeated not by an enemy but by the absence of wind and direction. The proud ships built for war now floated aimlessly, their oars resting uselessly on the water. The leaders' faces were grim, their arguments fruitless. Each day brought new tension, as hope dwindled and tempers flared among the commanders. The delay felt like a curse, a sign that their quest was doomed before it began. Whispers of divine anger spread through the camp, and even the bravest warriors began to doubt their cause. The air in Aulis was thick with dread, the promise of war slipping away. Each morning brought only more uncertainty, and the once mighty army felt the shadow of failure growing longer. The fate of the expedition hung on finding the right path. The leaders searched for answers in the stars, in omens, and in the words of priests, desperate for any guidance. The calm sea mocked their power and the soldiers' hope faded with each windless day. The greatest army ever assembled was brought to its knees by the invisible hand of fate. The greatest army in history was stranded, waiting for a sign, caught between hope and despair, their destiny hanging in the balance as the world held its breath. The answer to the Greeks' dilemma lay with Telephus, the proud and noble king they had wounded during their mistaken attack on Mysia. Once a formidable ruler, Telephus now suffered from a grievous injury that refused to heal, a wound inflicted by none other than Achilles himself. Achilles' magical spear had pierced Telephus, leaving him with a festering wound that defied every known remedy. Physicians, healers, and wise men from across the land tried their best, but nothing could ease his pain or close the wound. Desperate for relief, Telephus journeyed to the sacred oracle of Apollo, seeking divine guidance. The oracle's words were mysterious yet clear. "He that wounded shall also heal." This cryptic prophecy gave Telephus a glimmer of hope, but also left him puzzled. Realizing that Achilles was the key to his recovery, Telephus disguised himself in humble clothing and bravely approached the Greek camp, risking his life among his former enemies. He offered the Greeks a desperate bargain. If they would heal his wound, he would use his knowledge of the land to guide them safely to Troy, a city that had eluded them for so long. The Greeks were astonished. Their former foe now held the key to their quest, and the fate of their entire expedition seemed to rest in his hands. Achilles, confused and reluctant, protested that he was a warrior, not a healer. He had no idea how to cure such a wound. But Odysseus, ever the clever strategist, pondered the oracle's words. He suggested that perhaps the prophecy referred not to Achilles himself, but to the very spear that had caused the injury. Following Odysseus's advice, they scraped rust from Achilles' spear and carefully applied it to Telephus's wound. To everyone's amazement, the wound began to heal almost instantly, as if touched by magic. The prophecy was fulfilled. The very weapon that had brought suffering now brought miraculous healing, uniting former enemies in a moment of wonder. In gratitude and true to his word, Telephus revealed the secret sea routes and hidden paths that would finally lead the Greeks to Troy's shores. With Telephus as their guide, the Greeks prepared to set out once more, their spirits lifted and their hopes renewed. Hope returned to the camp, and the warriors dreamed of victory and homecoming. Yet, as the Greeks looked to the horizon, the winds remained eerily still, and they soon realized that another challenge awaited them on their journey to Troy. Even with Telephus's guidance, the winds did not rise. The Greeks turned to Calchas, their seer, for answers. Calchas revealed Artemis, goddess of the hunt, was furious with Agamemnon. Years before, Agamemnon had killed a sacred stag and boasted he was greater than Artemis. This act of arrogance had provoked the goddess's wrath. Now, Artemis held the winds captive, punishing the Greeks for their leader's pride. The army's hope turned to fear and resentment. Agamemnon, once a proud king, now stood humbled and blamed. The fate of the war and the lives of thousands rested on appeasing a vengeful goddess. No mortal power could break Artemis's hold. The calm sea became a prison, and the Greeks her captives. The leaders faced a crisis no sword could solve. The cost of Agamemnon's hubris was about to be revealed. Agamemnon begged Calchas for a way to appease Artemis. The answer was horrifying. He must sacrifice his daughter, Iphigenia. Agamemnon was torn between his love as a father and his duty as a king. Refusal meant the army would turn against him and the war would fail. Menelaus urged him to choose duty over love for the sake of Greece. The other leaders, grim and silent, agreed. Agamemnon's heart broke as he realized what he must do. He remembered his daughter's innocence, but ambition and obligation won out. With a heavy heart, he agreed to the sacrifice. The decision would haunt him forever. The price of pride was now the life of his child. The army's fate, and his own soul, hung in the balance. Agamemnon prepared to pay Artemis's terrible price. The stage was set for tragedy. To bring Iphigenia to Aulis, Agamemnon devised a cruel deception. He sent word to his wife, Clytemnestra, claiming Iphigenia was to marry Achilles. Clytemnestra, overjoyed, brought her daughter to the camp, dreaming of a royal wedding. But the truth unraveled quickly. Achilles, bewildered, denied any knowledge of the marriage. Clytemnestra confronted him, and the horrifying truth emerged. There was no wedding, only a sacrifice. An old servant revealed the real reason for their summons. Clytemnestra's joy turned to fury and heartbreak. She denounced Agamemnon as a monster. Achilles, appalled his name was used in the lie, vowed to protect Iphigenia. He stood ready to fight the Greek army for her. The camp was thrown into chaos, family against family, hero against hero. The cost of Agamemnon's choice was tearing the Greeks apart. The tragedy deepened with every lie revealed. Iphigenia learned her fate and was overcome with terror. She pleaded with her father, but Agamemnon could not meet her eyes. Clytemnestra's grief turned to rage while Achilles prepared to defend the princess. But the army, desperate to sail, demanded the sacrifice. Even Achilles' men refused to fight for her. In this hopeless moment, Iphigenia found her courage. She calmed herself, saw the chaos her resistance would cause, and made a choice. She told her mother not to hate her father, and Achilles to put away his sword. Iphigenia announced she would go to the altar willingly. "My life is a small thing to give for Greece," she declared. She transformed from a frightened girl into a hero. Her self-sacrifice stunned the army into silence. Iphigenia's courage changed the course of the story. A hush fell over the army as Iphigenia walked to the altar, head held high. The air was thick with tension, every soldier holding their breath, knowing the gravity of the moment. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the usual clamor of the battlefield. Agamemnon wept, his heart breaking for his daughter, while Clytemnestra collapsed in grief, unable to bear the sight. Calchas, the priest, raised the knife, his hands trembling with the weight of the act he was about to commit. Iphigenia knelt, offering herself freely, her face serene and resolute. She was a picture of bravery, her sacrifice a testament to her love for her people and her family. As the knife fell, a blinding light enveloped the altar, so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. It was as if the heavens themselves had opened up. When the light faded, Iphigenia was gone. A deer lay in her place. The transformation was miraculous, leaving everyone in awe and disbelief. Artemis, moved by Iphigenia's courage, had intervened. The goddess appeared in a radiant light, her presence commanding and benevolent. The goddess accepted the sacrifice but spared the girl's life. Her mercy was a gift, a reward for Iphigenia's bravery and purity of heart. The debt was paid not with blood, but with virtue. It was a powerful message, one that resonated deeply with all who witnessed it. A gentle breeze stirred, filling the sails at last. It was as if the gods themselves had blessed their journey, guiding them forward. The sea came alive, and the army cheered. Their spirits were lifted, their hearts filled with hope and gratitude. The curse was broken. The way to Troy was open. The path ahead was clear, and their mission could finally continue. Artemis's mercy had saved Iphigenia and the Greeks. Her intervention was a sign of divine favor, a blessing that would not be forgotten. The memory of the princess's courage would sail with them. Her bravery would be a guiding light, a source of inspiration for all. The gods had spoken. True sacrifice is measured by the heart. It was a lesson in love, courage, and the true meaning of sacrifice. The fleet set out, forever changed by what they had witnessed. Their journey was now blessed, their spirits renewed and their purpose clear. Iphigenia's story echoes the biblical tale of Isaac. Both feature a father commanded to sacrifice a beloved child. Agamemnon's act is punishment for pride. Abraham's is a test of faith. Both children are led to the altar, unaware of their fate. At the last moment, divine intervention spares them. Artemis replaces Iphigenia with a deer. God provides a ram for Isaac. Iphigenia chooses her fate, becoming a heroine. Isaac remains passive, saved by God's command. The stories reveal different values: Greek tragedy and choice, Hebrew faith and obedience. Both explore the agony of impossible choices and the hope of mercy. Iphigenia's tale is about public duty and self-sacrifice. Isaac's about faith and divine authority. Each story endures as a reflection on the cost of devotion. The myth of Iphigenia explores the conflict between love and duty. Agamemnon's choice is agonizing, no easy answers, only consequences. The story critiques ambition and the horrors of war, showing how glory can demand monstrous sacrifices. Iphigenia transforms from a pawn to a hero, choosing self-sacrifice over victimhood. Her courage redefines strength not in battle but in facing fate with dignity. Artemis's intervention offers hope. Virtue can inspire mercy even from the gods. The myth endures because it asks timeless questions about leadership, sacrifice, and the human spirit. Even in darkness, courage can create miracles. Iphigenia's story is a tragedy but also a testament to the power of choice and compassion. It remains a powerful reminder of the cost and the possibility of true heroism.